Summon troops. When those two deep shouts suddenly rang out, two powerful wills swept across the battlefield, quickly enveloping the mystic dragon army below. Under the influence of this force, many of the soldiers in the mystic dragon army were immediately drawn in, and one by one, their figures soared into the sky. What is this? The burly man narrowed his eyes in shock as he looked at the two identical figures that appeared beside Mu Chen. His pupils contracted as his expression showed deep astonishment. Are those spiritual avatars? But how can they be as powerful as the original? Even their battle formation skills are identical. The burly man's face shifted in surprise. Despite his vast experience, he was still stunned by the scene before him. He never expected Mu Chen to possess such incredible methods. After all, even their master back then could not achieve such a feat. While the leader of the mystic dragon army was still in shock, Mu Chen quietly exhaled in relief. He was glad to have arrived in time, or else today he would truly have been at a disadvantage. Earlier, when he entered this space, he had to leave two avatars behind to deal with the two martial attendants. However, doing so clearly slowed him down. Before he dealt with the two martial attendants, he couldn't easily withdraw the avatars. Otherwise, with the lineup of Lingxi, Luoli, and the others, they probably wouldn't have been able to hold off the three grand perfection level opponents. So, he could only wait for the avatars to free themselves before he could summon them back. Fortunately, at the last moment, the two avatars appeared in time and helped him stabilize the situation. Whoosh! Whoosh! Figures appeared rapidly behind black and white Mu Chen. The total number surpassed 2,000, and when added to Mu Chen's side, there were a total of 3,000 mystic dragon warriors. Mu Chen alone could never hope to control the battle will of 3,000 warriors, but fortunately, the two avatars were helping to share the burden. Since the three were of one mind, they could command the forces as if they were a single entity. Boom! With a wave, black and white Mu Chen summoned the battle will. In an instant, a vast wave of energy surged forth, and the overwhelming pressure spread across the entire sky, causing the very earth to tremble. The battle will of 3,000 mystic dragon warriors was truly terrifying. Under this immense pressure, Wutong, who had previously been grinning with malicious glee, had his expression freeze. A deep sense of dread filled his eyes as he stared at the 3,000 mystic dragon warriors behind Mu Chen. He had previously consumed a battle will pill to enhance his potential, which allowed him to command 2,000 mystic dragon warriors. He had used this power to suppress Mu Chen, but now, with Mu Chen suddenly summoning 3,000 warriors, Wutong could only imagine the earth-shattering attack that would come. Damn it! Damn it! How can he do this? Wutong mumbled frantically, his eyes bloodshot, and a flicker of fear flashed through them. In the face of the 3,000 mystic dragon warriors, he almost felt the urge to flee. However, in the end, Wutong suppressed that impulse. Although he didn't understand how Mu Chen had managed to summon 3,000 mystic dragon warriors, he refused to believe that Mu Chen could truly control them. If he could, Mu Chen would have no fear of anyone at the grand perfection level. He's just putting on a show. He's already at his limit. Wutong gritted his teeth, his gaze turning vicious again. Without hesitation, he summoned the battle spear formed by the battle will of the 2,000 mystic dragon warriors. The spear shot out with an explosive force, and millions of battle runes erupted with blinding light, as if they were about to tear apart the pressure emanating from the 3,000 warriors. Die! Wutong's roar echoed through the heavens and earth. Buzz! The battle spear pierced through space, heading straight for Mu Chen. Mu Chen lifted his head and watched the spear coming toward him. He then gave a slight nod to black and white Mu Chen. The three of them almost simultaneously formed hand seals, and in the next moment, the mystic dragon warriors behind them roared, unleashing their battle will like dark clouds spreading at an astonishing speed across the heavens. Boom! The battle will clouds churned violently, and within them, it felt as though boundless battle intent was being condensed, sending out a terrifying fluctuation. Boom! Boom! The massive battle spear tore through space and appeared above the battle will clouds. Without hesitation, it descended, its terrifying power threatening to tear apart the clouds themselves. Mu Chen raised his head and stared at the rapidly enlarging spear of battle intent in his pupils. Then, a puff of white air slowly exhaled from his mouth. Boom! The boundless layers of battle will clouds seemed to tremble violently at this moment. The next instant, just as the spear was about to fall, a massive dragon claw suddenly emerged from the clouds. The dragon claw was dark in color and extremely solid, resembling the claw of a true dragon. As it emerged, a mighty and vast dragon aura swept through the air. Boom! The dark dragon claw reached out from the thick clouds and grabbed the descending spear. The claw exploded with a dim light, instantly causing the spear to lose all its power. What? Wu Tong, seeing the spear, which was formed from the battle intent of 2,000 mystic dragon warriors, being so easily caught, was struck with shock and disbelief. Before he could recover from his shock, a deafening dragon's roar suddenly echoed from within the battle clouds. The roar was filled with overwhelming battle intent. Dragon battles across the 8 wastes. Snap! The dark dragon claw seemed to tighten at that moment. The massive spear was crushed instantly, turning into countless glowing fragments scattered across the sky. As the spear shattered, the heavy clouds shook, and in the next instant, a gigantic shadow seemed to rise from within the clouds and appeared in the sky. All eyes in this space were fixed on the massive shadow. Soon after, a series of sharp gasps filled the air. In the sky, a dark-colored giant dragon coiled in midair, its massive body covered in densely packed battle runes. Its overwhelming battle intent raged like a storm, sweeping through the heavens and earth. Looking at this dark giant dragon, the leader of the mystic dragon army and all the other warriors began to tremble, their eyes filled with intense excitement. It's the mystic dragon battle spirit. He actually refined the mystic dragon battle spirit. Excited voices rang out from the mystic dragon army, with many warriors gazing at Mu Chen's figure in the sky with fervor and passion. The burly man also showed a look of excitement, his expression complex and filled with admiration. Although the mystic dragon battle spirit that Mu Chen had refined was much weaker than during the peak period of the mystic dragon army, the fact that Mu Chen could refine it meant that he had a high degree of compatibility with the battle intent of the mystic dragon army. Given time, as long as Mu Chen continued to grow, it was not impossible for the mystic dragon army to regain its former glory. In the sky, Mu Chen also gazed in surprise at the giant dragon battle spirit that had been refined. He could sense that as this battle spirit took shape, the battle intent of the 3,000 mystic dragon warriors behind him surged to an incredible degree. The formation of the battle spirit required the will of the individual to truly merge with the battle intent of the army to create a battle spirit exclusive to the army. Clearly, he had achieved this earlier. Could it be because of the true dragon spirit? Mu Chen was also surprised by his own accomplishment. According to his estimation, he thought it would take at least a period of time for him to integrate with the mystic dragon army to achieve this. But now, he had accomplished it in such a short amount of time. The only reason he could think of was that it was likely due to the true dragon spirit within him. These thoughts flashed through Mu Chen's mind and were quickly suppressed. He raised his head, his gaze cold as he looked at the shocked Wu Tong. Without any intention to engage in further conversation, he focused his thoughts, and the dark giant dragon battle spirit roared. Its dragon mouth opened, and a massive breath of battle intent, tens of thousands of feet long, swept forward like a tidal wave. As the dragon breath rushed toward him, Wu Tong felt the terrifying battle intent within it, causing his soul to nearly fly out of his body. He attempted to activate his battle intent, but suddenly, he noticed that the battle intent behind him had become much thinner. Turning around, he saw the mystic dragon warriors' faces blank, their eyes fixed on the giant dragon battle spirit. It was clear that their morale had been completely shaken by the opponent. Trash, a bunch of useless fools. Seeing the morale of his own soldiers plummeting, Wu Tong immediately cursed inwardly. He could no longer afford to waste time. His body retreated explosively, abandoning all the mystic dragon warriors. Coward! His actions immediately provoked the fury of many of the mystic dragon warriors below, who began cursing loudly. A battle formation master who would abandon his own army at the slightest sign of trouble was clearly despicable. Such a person, if they were to become their king, would likely abandon them all the moment they encountered a powerful enemy. The burly man's expression was also dark and grim, filled with disgust as he looked at Mu Tong. Mu Chen witnessed this scene and with a flick of his sleeve, the battle dragon breath, which was about to engulf the mystic dragon army soldiers, was immediately retracted. These soldiers were his, after all, and if he destroyed 2,000 of them here, it would break his heart. Therefore, to protect them, he was willing to temporarily give up on pursuing Mu Tong. Up in the sky, the 2,000 mystic dragon army soldiers, who had once belonged to Mu Tong, watched the retracted battle dragon breath. They exchanged glances and suddenly, without hesitation, they knelt from a distance toward Mu Chen. All hail our king. The deep, unified voice rang out across the air. Clearly, whether it was Mu Chen's cultivation of the mystic dragon battle spirit, or his decision to spare their lives by giving up the pursuit of Mu Tong, it had completely won the allegiance of these Mystic Dragon army soldiers. On the vast plaza below, the other Mystic Dragon army soldiers met each other's gaze and nodded. In the next moment, the crowd, dense as shadows, knelt in unison. All hail our king. Behind Mu Chen, the 3,000 Mystic Dragon army soldiers also knelt together. The burly man on the plaza lifted his head and gazed at Mu Chen. A smile gradually appeared on his stern face. Then, he dropped to one knee and solemnly said, "All hail our king." The mighty voice resounded throughout the heavens and earth, shaking the very foundations of the world. Plop. In the distance, Mu Tong watched this scene, his face turning ashen. His blood boiled within him, and he could no longer suppress the urge, coughing up a mouthful of blood. He knew it then, he had completely lost to Mu Chen. "All hail our king." The resounding voices echoed through the heavens, causing Mu Chen in the sky to pause for a moment. He then stared in shock at the Mystic Dragon army, clearly astonished that this elite army, which he had long coveted, was actually acknowledging him as their new king. At this moment, even Mu Chen's usually composed heart raced, and although he tried to maintain a calm expression, he couldn't hide the joy that shone through his face. As time passed, he no longer bothered to hide his emotions, his face beaming with pure joy. He knew exactly how powerful this army was. Although some of the soldiers had been eroded by time during their long slumber, and the Mystic Dragon army had suffered some losses, this was still a force capable of challenging the Heavenly Supreme. When Mu Chen one day truly gained full control over them, even the Heavenly Supreme would no longer be a threat to him. In the vast great thousand worlds, creating an army of this caliber would require an immense amount of resources and effort. Even ordinary superpowers would find it impossible to achieve. Take the Wu family or the Western Heaven Battle Hall, for example. They might have a Heavenly Supreme overseeing them, but they certainly did not possess an army of this level. And if Mu Chen had to build such an army himself, even if he emptied Mu Manor of all its wealth, he would still be unable to produce even a tenth of the Mystic Dragon army. This was why Mu Chen was so overwhelmed with emotion now. "Please rise," he said, regaining his composure after a brief moment of excitement. He then cupped his hands respectfully toward the burly man and the many Mystic Dragon army soldiers. His tone was very polite, not the slightest bit arrogant despite the army's recognition of his position. These soldiers were not the battle puppets he had used before. They were a real army with flesh and blood. Therefore, some gestures to win their hearts were necessary. With a rustling sound, the tens of thousands of Mystic Dragon soldiers stood up. The burly man spoke in a respectful tone, "Please, new king, ascend the throne and accept the army token." He pointed to the stone platform at the center of the plaza. Mu Chen did not hesitate. His figure moved, and he gracefully descended, landing on the stone platform and looking down at the Mystic Dragon army soldiers. Commander Jiang Long of the Mystic Dragon army pays respects to the new king. The burly man bowed to Mu Chen, then bit his tongue and spat out a mouthful of his essence blood. Splatter, splatter. After he spat out a mouthful of essence blood, all the other Mystic Dragon army soldiers did the same, releasing their own essence blood. The numerous droplets quickly gathered, forming a blood orb that hovered in front of Mu Chen. The blood orb rolled and condensed, and soon a blood-red dragon token slowly emerged from it, absorbing the surrounding essence blood as it appeared. The dragon token floated in front of Mu Chen, radiating a mysterious power. Mu Chen's gaze burned with intensity as he stared at it. He knew that once he refined this dragon token, the Mystic Dragon army would truly belong to him. Without hesitation, he bit the tip of his tongue, and a drop of essence blood shot out, landing on the dragon token. The blood quickly merged into it, and Mu Chen could feel a strong connection between him and the Mystic Dragon army before him. Mu Chen extended his palm and gently grasped the dragon token. In that moment, he knew that he had become the one and only new king of the Mystic Dragon army. In the distance, Wutong watched this scene with eyes filled with jealousy, his face twisted with resentment, as if he wished he could drag Mu Chen down and take his place. At this moment, his regret was beyond words. Had he known this would happen, he would have never allowed Mu Chen to enter this space. He should have used every means possible to stop him from getting inside. If that had been the case, he wouldn't have had to rely on the battle formation skills to settle the matter. In Wutong's mind, Mu Chen was just a lower Earth Supreme. If not for the use of battle will, he was confident he could slay Mu Chen with his own hands. Damn it! Damn it! Wutong muttered, his lips trembling as he cursed, his eyes bloodshot with fury. However, Mu Chen clearly didn't have time to concern himself with the frustrations of the defeated. Holding the dragon token, he felt a surge of control over the powerful army before him, and a wave of joy washed over him. This single acquisition of the mystic dragon army was enough to make his journey through the ancient sacred abyss perfect. Meanwhile, the mystic dragon army soldiers on the square appeared slightly pale, likely from the loss of essence blood during the dragon token's condensation. Boom. The commander, Jiang Long, looked at Mu Chen, his expression one of mild satisfaction. But just as he was about to speak, the ground beneath them suddenly shook. Sensing the tremor, Mu Chen and Jiang Long paused, then looked up toward Wu Tong in the distance. What was he up to now? However, when they looked toward him, they saw no unusual movement from Wu Tong. Who is it? Mu Chen and Jiang Long's expressions changed slightly. It seemed they had sensed something. They quickly turned their heads, staring into the void, and Mu Chen shouted sharply, "Heh." As they shouted, the void before them twisted, and black mist began to seep out from the distorted space. In the next moment, a shadow, entirely pitch black, appeared and hovered in midair. The figure radiated an aura of death, and its evil presence sent a chill down the spines of all the mystic dragon army soldiers present, their faces changing dramatically. It's the Extraterritorial evil clan. Mu Chen's pupils contracted sharply. This foul, uncomfortable, and even nauseating aura could only belong to the Extraterritorial evil clan. Extraterritorial demons, daring to invade my mystic dragon space, seeking death. Jiang Long also roared with fury. Upon seeing the Extraterritorial evil clan, his eyes turned bloodshot with hatred, his animosity palpable. Boom. A torrent of spiritual energy exploded from his body, reaching the level of a perfect Earth Supreme. Whoosh. Jiang Long's figure flashed and appeared directly in front of the shadow swirling with the aura of death. He threw a punch, his arm bulging with veins that resembled coiling dragons, releasing a terrifying force. However, his fierce punch passed through the shadow, which bizarrely dissipated, only to reappear moments later in a different direction. Truly savage, but I didn't come here for you, the shadow said, its evil eyes scanning Jiang Long and the others. Then it sneered and added, however, you are indeed at your weakest right now. I won't miss this opportunity. As the words fell, he suddenly descended to the ground, placing an exceptionally pale hand on the earth. He then lifted his head, the black mist slightly dissipating, revealing a face that was ashen, bloodless, and sinister. He gave an eerie smile towards Jiang Long, Mu Chen, and the others. Stop him. Mu Chen's pupils contracted as he saw this. Although he didn't know exactly what the Extraterritorial evil clan sought, he felt an immense sense of unease and immediately shouted. Too late. The man from the Extraterritorial evil clan let out a cold, eerie laugh. A black magical array suddenly erupted from his palm. The thick, black light, resembling writhing worms, frantically drilled through the ground, shooting deep into the earth. Jiang Long's expression changed drastically upon seeing this. He exclaimed in horror, his target is the sealed demon emperor's corpse underground. Mu Wang quickly controlled the mystic dragon army's battle intent to suppress it. Mu Chen was also shaken upon hearing this. There was a sealed demon emperor's corpse underground? His hand abruptly clenched the dragon token. However, before he could mobilize the mystic dragon army, the ground suddenly shook violently. Gigantic cracks spread wildly across the earth. Whoosh. From within the cracks, a rolling wave of demonic energy surged upwards. A black beam shot straight into the sky, accompanied by a terrifying fluctuation of demonic energy that flooded the entire realm. Mu Chen looked up in shock. Within the black beam, there was a skeletal form, pitch black in color. Although the skeleton had lost its vitality, it still emitted an incredibly strong demonic aura. From the intensity of this demonic energy, it was clear that the being was once a powerful demon emperor in life. Haha, I was right. There truly is a demon emperor's corpse here. The shadowy figure cackled, his voice dripping with malice. Mu Chen's face darkened. At this point, he had already activated the mystic dragon army, but given his current strength, even at full power, he could only summon 3,000 mystic dragon soldiers. However, it was fortunate that the man, wrapped in the aura of death, did not seem to have reached the level of a heavenly supreme. This meant that he was not invincible. Boom. Boom. The violent battle intent surged like a torrent, piercing through space and heading straight for the man enveloped in the deathly aura. Instead of facing the oncoming torrent of battle intent head-on, the deathly figure dodged quickly, retreating rapidly. Clearly, he wasn't planning on a direct confrontation, but Mu Chen wasn't about to let him escape. With a thought, torrents of battle intent surged out, and Mu Chen realized that this man's objective was to obtain the demon emperor's corpse. As long as he could hold him off and prevent him from collecting the corpse, it would be enough. The deathly figure dodged several times, but clearly Mu Chen's relentless assault had provoked him. He suddenly stopped, his face darkening as the black energy around him dissipated, revealing a pale, bloodless face. His eyes locked onto Mu Chen as he let out a sinister laugh. Since you're so eager to die, this prince will grant your wish today. Remember, the one who kills you is Tianyu, prince of the clan of corpse demons. As the cold, deathly voice of the man permeated the air, a surge of boundless death energy erupted from his eyes. On the ground where he stood, some plants and trees withered rapidly under the corrosive influence of the death energy. All vitality was ruthlessly stripped away. Even the spiritual energy of the surrounding land gradually turned gray as the deathly aura filled the air. Mu Chen's gaze grew more intense as he saw this. The death energy was so tyrannical that it not only corrupted the land's spiritual energy but also polluted everything it touched. What kind of destruction would such death energy cause if it entered the human body? A wary, cautious look flashed in Mu Chen's eyes as he realized that when fighting these extraterritorial evil clan members, one had to be extremely careful of their strange demonic energy entering the body. Boom. Though his thoughts were racing, Mu Chen did not hesitate in his actions. With a flick of his finger, torrents of overwhelming battle intent shot forth like a river, tearing through the void, and slammed toward the figure who had claimed to be Tianyu, the prince of the clan of corpse demons. Humph. However, this time, Tianyu merely scoffed and did not dodge. Instead, he extended his pale hand, and dark, ominous runes appeared on his palm. In the next instant, a torrent of corpse energy, like a billowing smoke, erupted from his hand. Corpse demon chi. The corpse chi held out, clashing violently with the overwhelming battle will that was charging toward it. The resulting sound was ear-piercing, and under the corrosion of the corpse chi, the torrent of battle will was forcefully neutralized. Bang! Bang! Waves of corpse demon smoke erupted incessantly, resisting the tidal flow of battle will from Mu Chen. The lightning-fast exchanges caused Mu Chen's expression to grow more serious. He was controlling the battle will of the 3,000 mystic dragon army. Such immense and violent battle will should have been more than enough to overwhelm any typical Upper Earth Supreme. Yet when facing Tianyu, he couldn't gain any advantage. Clearly, although Tianyu hadn't reached the level of a demon emperor, his strength was definitely at the pinnacle of the great perfection realm. Roar! Mu Chen's expression darkened as his hands suddenly formed seals. The battle will of the 3,000 mystic dragon army began to surge violently. In the next instant, an earth-shattering dragon roar rang out. Boom! The black mystic dragon battle spirit soared into the sky once again. The dragon's mouth took a deep breath before suddenly unleashing a massive black dragon breath tens of thousands of feet long, carrying a destructive wave that charged toward Tianyu. Tianyu, his body surrounded by corpse chi, looked at the black dragon breath coming at him. A cold sneer appeared on his colorless face, and then he opened his mouth. A gray-white streak of light shot out from his mouth. Devouring skull. The streak of light rapidly expanded in the wind and transformed into a massive gray skull within moments. The skull's mouth opened and closed as if it could swallow all the life force in the world. Whoosh! The gray skull opened its enormous mouth and sucked in the incoming dragon breath, forcefully devouring it. After swallowing the battle-will dragon breath, the light patterns on the skull flickered rapidly. After a moment, they gradually faded and hovered around Tianyu's body, with the eye sockets releasing a chilling glow as it locked onto Mu Chen. Seeing such a powerful attack effortlessly neutralized, Mu Chen's mouth tightened. He couldn't help but feel the pressure. After all, the same dragon breath had forced Wu Tong to flee in panic earlier, but now, Tianyu had countered it with ease. Clearly, Tianyu was far stronger than Wu Tong. Tianyu hovered in midair, arms crossed, his corpse chi-filled eyes staring coldly at Mu Chen. He smirked darkly. Is that all you've got? Go ahead, use whatever tricks you have. I'll let you know just how vast the gap is between the geniuses of the great thousand worlds and my extraterritorial race. Mu King, let's join forces and slay this bastard. Jiang Long shot out, his eyes filled with fierce hatred as he locked onto Tianyu. The next moment, his body rapidly expanded. In just a few breaths, he grew into a giant, with dragon scales emerging on his body, turning him into a dragon man. Boom! He stomped his foot, causing the ground to crack. His body shot forward like a cannonball straight at Tianyu. Mu Chen didn't stop him. Shi Tianyu was indeed an enigma, and they had to capture him quickly to prevent any unexpected changes. As for one-on-one combat, Mu Chen wasn't foolish enough to go that route. Without hesitation, he urged the mystic dragon battle spirit into action. With a roar, the dragon claws reached out, slamming fiercely toward Shi Tianyu. In Mu Chen's estimation, Shi Tianyu's strength should be at the top level of the Great Perfection realm, but as long as he wasn't a demon emperor, Mu Chen had no fear. Both Jiang Long and Mu Chen attacked simultaneously, and their combined assault became extremely violent. Even Shi Tianyu began desperately activating corpse chi and the gray skull to resist their joined force. In that instant, the entire space trembled violently, the chaotic energy ripping apart the surroundings, leaving massive cracks in the ground as the battle zone collapsed like the end of the world. Although Shi Tianyu's strength was at the pinnacle of the Great Perfection realm, under the combined onslaught of Mu Chen and Jiang Long, he was starting to fall into a disadvantage, no longer as calm and composed as at the beginning. Mu Chen noticed this and immediately summoned Black and White Mu Chen to join the battle. This greatly boosted their momentum, and Shi Tianyu began to retreat steadily. In the distance, Wu Tong's face turned pale as he watched the earth-shattering battle unfold. The earlier appearance of Shi Tianyu had already left him deeply shaken. He had never expected that an extraterritorial evil race would follow them. The terrifying strength displayed by Shi Tianyu had left him somewhat shaken. If it came to a one-on-one fight, he feared he wouldn't survive more than 10 rounds before falling at Shi Tianyu's hands. This place is too dangerous. We shouldn't stay here for long. Wu Tong's expression changed as he began to reconsider. Now that the Mystic Dragon Army was under Mu Chen's control, remaining here was pointless. As for helping Mu Chen deal with Shi Tianyu, that was out of the question. At this point, he secretly hoped that Mu Chen and the others would perish at the hands of the extraterritorial evil clan. Boom. While Wu Tong was lost in thought, a great battle unfolded in the distance. Shi Tianyu shattered a tide of battle will with a single palm before turning to strike Jiang Long, whose body was covered in dragon scales, with a punch. Bang! The force was so overwhelming that it shattered the surrounding space. Jiang Long was sent flying, but Shi Tianyu himself staggered, his body trembling. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Black and White Mu Chen closing in, and a dark flicker passed through his gaze. In this clash, he had completely fallen into a disadvantageous position. I can't waste any more time with them. Shi Tianyu's eyes flashed with a cold glint. Suddenly, his body dissolved into black smoke and reappeared thousands of feet away. He raised his head, and black blood spewed from his mouth. That blood shot through the air like a sharp arrow, piercing straight into the center of the Demon Emperor's corpse, which hovered motionless in the distance. Boom! The Demon Emperor's corpse, whose eyes had been tightly shut, suddenly opened them. An immense demonic aura rolled forth, and in an instant, its figure shifted, appearing behind Wu Tong. It grabbed the top of his head. The sudden attack left Wu Tong terrified, screaming and struggling wildly. But the Demon Emperor's corpse held him firmly, and with a pulse of its palm, shattered Wu Tong's skull. A flood of corpse chi rushed into Wu Tong's body, causing his form to rapidly wither away. Mu Chen and Jiang Long saw this, and their expressions changed. They both struck out simultaneously, releasing vast spiritual energy that surged toward the Demon Emperor's corpse. Whoosh! The Demon Emperor's corpse waved its arm, and the withered Wu Tong was hurled toward Mu Chen and the others. Mu Chen's eyes narrowed as he shouted, "Fall back." He clearly saw that the life in Wu Tong's eyes had disappeared, and his skin was crawling with corpse chi. Bang! Just as they retreated, Wu Tong's body exploded in midair. Flesh and blood turned into a cloud of corpse chi, spreading like a thick black fog, rapidly sweeping toward them. Mu Chen and the others dared not let it touch them, pulling back in haste. Today's battle, this prince will remember. When I control this Demon Emperor's corpse, I'll return for another round. Shi Tianyu's cold voice echoed in the heavens as they retreated. However, his voice sounded weaker than before, possibly from the strain of manipulating the Demon Emperor's corpse. This is bad. He's trying to escape. Jiang Long exclaimed in alarm. Mu Chen looked up and saw that Shi Tianyu had reunited with the Demon Emperor's corpse. The latter lowered its head, its evil, corpse-ridden gaze locking with Mu Chen's. A cruel smile appeared on Shi Tianyu's face as he made a throat-cutting gesture toward Mu Chen. Next time we meet, I will kill you. He laughed maniacally, and his figure swiftly turned into eerie black smoke, enveloping the Demon Emperor's corpse. The space behind them corroded as the thick black fog seeped in, vanishing without a trace. As Shirtianyu withdrew, the space slowly returned to calm, leaving behind a ravaged landscape that testified to the ferocity of the earlier battle. Chen stared at the spot where Shirtianyu had vanished, his brows furrowing slightly. As expected, the Extraterritorial evil clan had entered the ancient sacred abyss. This trip to the sacred abyss was certainly going to become far more troublesome than he had anticipated. In the mystic dragon space, the battle was drawing to a close, leaving behind a shattered land that spoke to the intensity and brutality of the conflict. Chen looked grimly at the place where Shirtianyu had disappeared. This was likely the first time he had encountered a living, powerful member of the Extraterritorial evil clan, and the methods and strength Shirtianyu had displayed were enough to make him uneasy. The corpse chi is entirely different from spiritual energy, yet it is domineering and malicious. Once it invades, the life force within the body is quickly stripped away. Currently, the ancient sacred abyss is already home to the teams of various superpower factions. With the addition of the extraterritorial evil clans, which lurk in the shadows like venomous snakes, the situation is bound to become even more complex and troublesome. This person is a powerful member of the clan of corpse demons. No wonder he came to seize the demon emperor corpse, Jiang Long said, frowning beside Chen. Clan of corpse demons. Chen muttered to himself. However, being unfamiliar with the extraterritorial evil clans, he clearly found this term strange. There are 32 major clans within the extraterritorial evil factions. These represent the core of their strength, and the clan of corpse demons is one of them. The clan of corpse demons has the ability to control corpses and draw power from them. Now that the demon emperor's corpse is in Shirtianyu's hands, if he fully controls it, his combat power will undoubtedly surge again, Jiang Long sighed. Chen's gaze tightened. Even without the demon emperor's previous strength, that corpse was still powerful enough to rival a top-level great perfection. Like Wu Tong before, he didn't even react before being struck down by the demon emperor's corpse in a thunderous strike. We were too careless earlier. Taking advantage of the moment when our mystic dragon army was weakened, this man broke the seal and seized the demon emperor's corpse, Jiang Long said with some self-blame. The demon emperor had been slain and sealed by the mystic dragon war emperor during his lifetime. Now that his corpse was taken, it would inevitably cause more trouble, making Jiang Long feel guilty toward his former master. Commander Jiang Long, if we encounter Shirtianyu again, I will do my best to deal with him and destroy the demon emperor's corpse, Chen promised seriously. After all, the mystic dragon army was weakened earlier due to their efforts in forging the dragon token for him, giving Shirtianyu the opportunity to strike, so he felt a responsibility in this matter. Of course, the larger reason for his promise was to win the hearts of the army. The mystic dragon army was no longer a battle puppet he could use at will. They were a living, breathing force, with Jiang Long as their commander. If Chen wanted to keep this elite army under his control for the long term, he needed to earn their genuine trust. Sure enough, hearing Chen's words, Jiang Long's face softened a little. The looks of the mystic dragon army toward Chen became more respectful and trusting. Chen sighed in relief. Shirtianyu was indeed strong, and if he controlled the demon emperor's corpse, he would become even more formidable. But Chen wasn't without ways to counterbalance this. If it came to a life-or-death battle and he revealed all his trump cards, the outcome wasn't certain. So, his promise wasn't just a show of strength. In that case, thank you, King Mu, Jiang Long said gratefully. He then turned to the mystic dragon army, smiling. King Mu should consider organizing the mystic dragon army next. Chen nodded warmly, but then he hesitated. Now that the mystic dragon army was made up of real people, he obviously couldn't store them in the Qiankuan bracelet. Did this mean he would have to take thousands of soldiers with him? Don't worry, King Mu, Jiang Long said with a knowing smile when he saw the concern on Chen's face. This mystic dragon space is our mobile camp. It was carefully opened up by our previous master. Once you use a secret technique to compress it, this space will become a ring you can carry with you. Chen's face brightened. If that was the case, wouldn't he be able to carry the army with him at all times? However, Jiang Long suddenly paused, grinning mischievously. The spiritual energy in this mystic dragon space is extremely thin. It only meets our needs when we are in a dormant state. But now that we are all awake, our demand for spiritual energy is much higher. So, if we stay in the mystic dragon space for too long, the lack of spiritual energy will cause our strength to decline. Chen was stunned. What should we do? He didn't yet have the ability to open a new space, nor could he make the mystic dragon space connect to the great thousand worlds to absorb spiritual energy on its own. Jianglong grinned. So, we need a large supply of supreme spiritual liquid to continue our cultivation. How much do you need? Mu Chen had been about to breathe a sigh of relief, but he suddenly noticed the sly look in Jianglong's eyes and cautiously asked. Jianglong grinned broadly. Not much. Just around 800 million supreme spiritual liquid a year. Mu Chen's vision instantly darkened, and he couldn't help but exclaim, 800 million a year? At this moment, even with all his self-restraint, he almost couldn't stop himself from cursing. 800 million drops of supreme spiritual liquid a year, this was no small sum. Back in the Great Luo Heaven domain, their entire domain's annual income probably barely reached 100 million. And now, just maintaining the Mystic Dragon army for a year cost 800 million? It was like throwing resources into a bottomless pit. Only now did Mu Chen truly understand how terrifying the resources required were to cultivate an elite army of this caliber. 800 million a year isn't that bad, is it? I was actually understating it, Jianglong said with a trace of puzzlement. Back when they followed the Mystic Dragon War Emperor, the yearly consumption of supreme spiritual liquid always exceeded 1 billion. Mu Chen's mouth twitched. He wasn't the Mystic Dragon War Emperor. He was merely an Upper Earth Supreme. He didn't have the wealth to match that kind of extravagance. Even with Mu Manor behind him, its income probably couldn't sustain this expense. Jianglong seemed to realize this as well. He gave an awkward smile and added, if the Mu King can find a place to deploy us, as long as we're not stationed in the Mystic Dragon space, our yearly needs should drop to about 500 million. Mu Chen let out a helpless sigh. But if you didn't keep the Mystic Dragon army by his side, there was little point. Leaving them at Mu Manor would be a complete waste. They were too powerful for anyone else to command. I'll do my best to meet your needs for supreme spiritual liquid, Mu Chen finally nodded. He had managed to acquire such a formidable army, he wasn't about to let them slip through his fingers. News of their existence would drive countless superpower factions to madness trying to seize them. A few 100 million in supreme spiritual liquid was nothing compared to a force capable of rivaling a heavenly supreme. By Mu Chen's estimation, to cultivate such a force from scratch would take not just time, but well over 10 billion drops of supreme spiritual liquid. Here's 100 million. Use it for now. With a wave of his sleeve, torrents of liquid surged forth, radiant spirit light erupting and vast spiritual energy flooding the entire Mystic Dragon space, illuminating the surroundings. These torrents were all formed from condensed supreme spiritual liquid. At that moment, Mu Chen felt a surge of gratitude. Thankfully, when he competed for the title of Son of the Continent on the Western Heaven continent, he had bet 80 million on himself to win. That gamble had boosted his reserves to around 200 million. Otherwise, he wouldn't have even been able to provide this 100 million now. Seeing the supreme spiritual liquid, Jianglong smiled and nodded. With this supply, the Mystic Dragon army could train in the Mystic Dragon space for 1 or 2 months without needing to leave. After allocating the supreme spiritual liquid, Mu Chen took a closer look at the army he had acquired. He found that the current Mystic Dragon army had 15,000 soldiers. According to Jianglong, the army had once peaked at 25,000. Clearly, their long slumber had cost them dearly in numbers. Looks like I'll need to find opportunities to replenish their ranks in the future, Mu Chen thought to himself. But the prerequisite was that he needed enough supreme spiritual liquid. As it stood, just supplying these 15,000 soldiers was already a massive burden. If he wanted to recruit more, the cost would only grow heavier. The scale of Mu Manor needs to expand, Mu Chen murmured, tapping his forehead. Currently, Mu Manor ruled the northern region of the Tianluo continent, but that was far from enough. If he wanted true wealth and power, expansion was inevitable. Of course, expansion meant conflict and war with other top forces on the Tianluo continent. But Mu Chen wasn't afraid. He was no longer that lower Earth Supreme of the past. When he returned to Mu Manor and the continent, even someone like Mandala would be surpassed by him. If the Mu King ever needs to, you can contact us directly through the Mystic Dragon space, Jianglong said respectfully. However, with your current mastery as a battle formation master, you can only command the battle will of 3,000 Mystic Dragon warriors. I look forward to the day you can control the entire army. I look forward to it, too, Mu Chen replied with a smile. Receiving the secret technique to store the Mystic Dragon space from Jianglong, Mu Chen didn't linger any longer. With a flicker of light, his figure shot out of the Mystic Dragon space. At this moment, he hadn't forgotten the trove of spirit pills left behind by the spirit butterfly pill immortal in that underground cave. Of course, the most important among them was the one he had been longing for, the sublimation pill. If he could obtain this pill, then the supreme divine ability of the immortal golden body could be enhanced to its second stage. For Chen, that would undoubtedly be a tremendous boost in power.